Who knows what foolishness lurks in the minds of men? I do. Not a big mystery. People are dumb. They don't try to think. Some people do. I got a new hat. Anyways, today's topic is about normal stuff. Here, let me get the screen adjusted again. These things are stupid. Green screen. That's what it looks like, but I'm sure you might want to see my ugly mug from time to time. Okay, the topic is normal. Is normal conducive with good? I don't know. There's several kinds of normal. Like, for instance, if everybody had a third eye, that would be everybody. So it'd be normal, right? Even though biologically, it might not be normal or good for us or whatever. Well, kind of like wisdom teeth, for instance. Almost everybody's got them, and they just grow in because they're just a vestigial of when we were apes and had longer jaws. And now that we have the shorter jaws and the ability for speech, we got these teeth growing in, and they just keep growing in and getting compacted, and they are not conducive to our health. So even though it's the norm, it's not good. This brings up a lot of questions for me about, okay, if the majority of the people believe in something and it's just the normal, it's just what we've always done, or that's just what we know, and yet nobody's ever questioned it. A, is it something that we actually know? And B, is it normal to think that way? Is it a natural normal, or is it a norm, an unnatural norm that everybody's doing? And you got to have the distinction between the two, I think. Like, for instance, in China, they or Japan, I can't remember which one of those places, but they had bound women's feet together so they just kind of like crunch right up like this because it looked like a lotus flower, which is supposed to be beautiful and dainty and all this stuff. Well, this is why these little women just take like little hobbling steps and couldn't even hardly walk because their feet were essentially crippled. They had to wear special shoes and everything else because their feet were just bound together and shrunken like that. But it was the norm of that society. It was normal for them to view a certain thing as good and used a bad methodology of going about it. Even though, so it wasn't conducive to good so far as health of the person, but it was viewed as good even though unhealthy because of its what do you call it, aesthetics and what was considered to be beautiful in that particular society, and it just happened to be a big dumb flower. So this brings us up to modern society. Once we've learned a lot of these things are just simply not true, and we're slowly coming out of the dark ages, but I feel that we're still there because of these antique belief systems where everybody seems to think that uh, it's synonymous with good, and most people believe in that narrative, even though it causes you not to do good things and justified because you're synonymous with good. You can't be wrong if the other guy is doing something which you made up in the first place. So you're justified now because you believe you are to go do something harmful towards another person or take their rights away, or like tell them that they can't get married or buy a freaking cake. It's none of anybody's business. So is the norm good? Huh. Well, it depends on the situation. If it's actually good or not, if it's synonymous with good, if it's an action or a belief that's actually helps human flourishing, then we're pretty much, like don't beat kids, or worse and stuff. I'm not going to mention it. It's gross. Don't go picking a fight. Don't go stealing and murdering and stuff like that. And don't accuse other people of doing it either, just because you believe they are. It's you just don't know. So nobody is synonymous with good or bad. It's just a nebulous thing. Um, hey, Godless Sewing, uh, you can come in and chat if you like. I'm just rambling on, um, but it's pretty confusing to me how some people can think a belief is normal because they're used to it in their societies, and that is the norm, and yet it is not conducive to good, and it actually harms people health wise or mentally or anything like that. It's not good for human flourishing if it stifles the flourishing, and yet the society considers it good. And it's usually based on ancient so-called wisdom. Let me tell you something about the ancients. They were dumb as hell. They didn't understand crap. There's no such thing as ancient wisdom. There's maybe been one or two smart people along the way who brought people up to the next level of thinking or whatever. But it was still generations, 200-300 years before anybody actually got it in their noggin what the person was even talking about. So it was abnormal. Like Confucius, for instance, he had a bunch of followers too, and they went around the countryside teaching, but they had to hide because the emperor did not want knowledge getting out. Does this sound familiar in every society? And he wanted the people ignorant so they'd worship him. The god kings and emperors, they were all the same. They're all the same. Once they usurped power on everybody, nobody else can even think for themselves. They had to be completely 100% devoted to the kingdom. And you can't think for yourself when you're being told what to even think. So you can be regulated into servitude for one family at the time. And yet, these people were considered, the ultimate good, the ones who knew right from wrong and told everybody else how to do it. It was just supremely wrong. So, but yet that was normal. So this normal topic, conducive with good, it's really nebulous depending on what your frame of mind is. And you have to ask yourself these deeper questions. Can it be good, or is this so-called good behavior a normal behavior? If you get a kid with ADHD or something, and oh yeah, well, we never noticed, he's just hyperactive or whatever. He just normally that way. That's all it is. And then you look at all the other kids, in the neighborhood, and like, wow, they're not that hyperactive and trying to steal everything. Um, so it's not normal so far as the norm, but it might be. Um, Julian Jaynes from Princeton, with his The Rise of the Conscious Mind, The Rise of Consciousness and the Bicameral Mind, has talked about everybody having this mutation of from Plato telling everybody in the philosophy that they needed guidance from higher powers, the gods, and then who was connected to them, the elite rich. So the elite had to tell, the everybody else is the servant class, okay? So they didn't know anything, and the people above them, their authorities, had to tell them what to think. And this was a mutation from bicameral mind, the two-chamber brain. And that pretty much, ruined the golden age of Greece when all the thinking started coming out, and they were doing the Socratic method and questioning everything to see if, and it's okay, am I wrong about something? Nope, that wasn't that. It's just they totally flipped it right back to audio and visual hallucinations of a higher power giving you orders because you believe really hard. They did that. And Plato, basically, Mark Hamilton coined Plato as the father of crime to do when he did that. So this mutation of the brain, coming together at that time, we could have evolved mentally, thousands of years ago. I'm pretty sure around 2,000 years ago, we probably would have had electricity and shit because of this crap. But the whole world went off of this because the only people who knew about any of these teachings were the elite. They sent their kids to the schools that Plato opened, and they all thought it was a good idea, and that's where all the money went in. So all the rulers of all the elite, yeah, that's a good idea. This is how we're gonna, and this is why we have the self-regulated slavery system that we do today socially, because anybody who jumps out of the norm is somehow, let's go get them, like atheists, for instance. Everybody's supposed to be worshiping something, and they view a higher power as something good, as a virtue, and everybody's doing it, and they can't understand it. When you laugh at them or say, "Yeah, no thanks," when they say, "Well, I believe in a higher power," yeah, well, I'm not going to diminish my existence just to think I need to be submissive to something else that I'm imagining is there, just because I'm worthless or something simply for existing. You're not guilty or worthless for simply existing, and you're not being arrogant for not being a submissive little bitch to something that's not even there to begin with, but an idea. The mutation, the bicameral thinking that we had before 3,000 years ago. So, but it was normal back then, and you can even trace the way people thought throughout writing history, and on everything on the walls, and in the books, whatever. You can trace the evolution of the mind through this literary history, and they really did uh, put too much stock in something controlling every move they made that wasn't even around to do it. They couldn't think for themselves. However, the God King, Pharaoh, whatever they had his crew going out and making declarations and telling people what to think. Even if they changed their mind or whatever, they brought it out there on the scrolls, hear ye, you'd better do this, or, the guards are going to come by and whoop your ass, or something. But those were the normal behaviors. Now we have stuck with this mutation that we don't need those, so much the police forces anymore doing that sort of thing, oppressing the people. We oppress ourselves, and we vote for the very things that oppress us because of this mutation of mentality. We just think it's normal, and our leaders tell us it's good while they, walk off with all of our earnings and tell us that we have to live in shit, basically, and we're not allowed to do this or that and blah, blah, blah. And it's our fault that we're lazy because we're not, taken care of like they are. They make the rules stacked against us, and we allowed them to do it. It's not like they put a sword in our back and forced us to think that way. Our mental freedom is not there as a norm in public. Most people do not think for themselves. They think what they're told to think as a good thing because it gets pounded on the pulpit, around the coffee tables, around the campfires, and it's because, I'm the sacrifice. That makes me good. My life is worthless unless something better than me is out there. And then And then you got this hierarchical series of people directing down the line, and the general population is just the low man on the totem pole, as the phrase goes, that, you know, the hierarchical system is crap. And it's usually a white male thing, and it is in the United States at least. And it's so damn obvious that it's ridiculous because our leaders, force that issue. And anybody who says any different, suddenly they're a terrorist, even though they're the guys who's going, stop it. We're all smarter than that. We can think for ourselves. Don't try to tell us what we are. Stop oppressing us. Stop telling us who we can or cannot fall in love with. All that stuff. Being yourself. Don't stop telling us it's wrong to be ourselves. And this is all from this mutation that makes it so we can't even take the time to think for ourselves and ask these questions. Is this good? Just because it's normal? Is it actually normal behavior? Is it a natural normal, by nature, that this is happening right now with everyone, or myself, or my neighbor, or whatever? Nobody asks those questions because we've been told not to ask those questions, to play follow the damn leader. Your leaders will tell you. And then all your neighbors kind of spy and say, yeah, that's what makes you right, and that's what makes you holy, whatever. And so it's a self-regulating slavery system because of this mutation of the mind. You're self-regulated, and you're regulated in that way in society because everybody else will tattle on you and, shun you and throw you out, whatever. But if you're a willing participant in this behavior, then you're a willing participant in your own slavery. In my opinion, people might have other opinions, but as soon as you say, okay, this is ultimately synonymous with good, yet the deeds don't come out as good, but seem to be against the welfare of others and yourself, it can't be good. And it can't be normal behavior according to nature. Hell, even animals, once they get done fighting or whatever, they get away from each other, and go eat some grass or something, or, go hibernate or whatever the hell they do. Humans, however, seem to only be able to comprehend what they can get right now, and the flow of resource goes upward that they earn, and they got this trickle-down economy thing going on to where it's not trickling down. Those people are not honest. They're not real leaders. And it's all because of the philosophies of Plato. Well, it's not all because of it, but that's a big, big thing. The philosophy of Plato telling everybody they need somebody greater than them, whether it be entitlement, supernatural, social, whatever, to guide you in order to do the right thing because you're too damn dumb to do the right thing. Well, and this goes with religion. I hear it a lot with religion. That's one of the arguments. Excuse me, I got to scratch my knee. Yeah, that's the stuff right there. Anyway, this is the excuse I hear from religious people, arguments all the time. If you don't have a God, who's holding you back from doing bad? Well, yourself. Because you already made the decision not to do something bad. If you need an imaginary character to hold you back from doing something vile to another human being, then you are a vile human being. There's nothing with, putting you on strings. Your actions are your actions, thoughts and words. So how the hell does that argument even come into play? Yeah, I hear it all the time in all religions, almost. You can't be good without God, and yet That's when you are without a God. The abnormal, because it's not in the norm, you're not part of the, you're a minority basically. The only thing you want to do is good. I mean, there are some asshole non-believers, or in other religions and whatever. There's a lot of assholes out there, but the vast majority of people don't go around going, "Yahoo! I'm free. I can do whatever the hell I want, and there's no consequences." That is a myth, because you've been told that. Why? So you can be a little follower. You can't be good and you can't go to the special place unless you become a submissive little bitch to the ruling elite and call it spirit or whatever. That's why. And nobody wants to think of that. They know better. They know there's nothing there. What they want to do in reality is win an argument at all cost, and the only way they can try to do it is me good, you bad. Therefore, no matter what the truth is or facts are or reality, I get to deny it because I believe. And that's the only criteria that you've been instilled. And that is not normal. That is not how your brain evolved to think. And no, you're not, there's this concept of sin. It's just a concept that man made to control people. You're not automatically sinning simply for not following. That's not normal. That's part of the mutation. Check out Julian Jaynes. I'm going to end this. I'm not going to rattle on all day and all that stuff. I think I'll go get a snack. But everybody just, try to check out Julian Jaynes, The Consciousness or something like that, and The Bicameral Mind from Princeton. And there's a lot of information, on his hypothesis. And most scientists, it's a hypothesis because you can't call it a theory without, evidence, and you can't go back in time. There's no time machine. So it's not a working theory. It is a hypothesis. However, everything leads in that direction with the archaeological and historical evidence that we have that he was right about the development of the human mind. So most scientists agree with that hypothesis. That's how our minds still don't work, not in a proper way. We have to train them out of that indoctrination mindset and start thinking for ourselves. And not just being bold and saying, "I know me, I know what I think." No, you really don't. Just because you're bold doesn't mean you know how to think. You're telling everybody what you think. Think about that. Anyways, damn it, this stream is over. You guys have a nice day. Join me. Leave some comments below or whatever, and what topics you want to discuss with me. Join me. Actually discuss them. I don't know diddly do. I'm just some average dude rattling his mouth. So join me in a discussion. I want to get intellectual, and I want to get people in here that's intellectual that have the actual evidence for certain topics. I want scientists, philosophers, what the hell ever. Y'all have a great day. Bye.